as people of faith with love and sorrows, gifts and needs. I'm sorry, did you go to YouTube yet? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. Jancy, would you light the chalice? And time for announcements. Tom.
I think this Thursday, yes, we will be meeting here for the writing group, 6 o'clock.
Sounds good. And I know Wednesday night, what are they discussing on Wednesday? Oh, Jim.
Change your mind.
Okay, yeah, to answer that question, I think they're still working on the Netflix documentary on Change Your Mind. It's a book on some of the research and things going on with psychedelics. So I think they have one more meeting. I think it was a 4-part series, and I think they're on part 4 this Wednesday. And then as far as other announcements, we have a board meeting scheduled for next Sunday after church, so it'll start after talk back around noon. We also have Costa and board of the pledge drive going. So if you have not yet, you intend to pledge, you have not yet filled out the form and sent it to Costa, please do that. The sooner the better, just so that she has a good handle on our projected income. And then I believe tomorrow night is when P-Flag meets, the second Monday of the month, I believe. So that'll be meeting, I believe, at 6 o'clock in church.
Right.
So that's it for me. Thank you.
There are forms for pledging out on the table in the fireplace room. Any other announcements? Yes, Doug.
It's sort of an announcement. I went and visited KC Reddy this week, and he's doing a lot better with his speech. He's working really hard at it. And if any of you wanted to stop by and chat with him for a little bit, he'd certainly appreciate it. Just coordinate it with Lena. But compared to where he was a couple of years ago, where it was almost impossible to understand anything, it's a remarkable improvement.
That's wonderful. Thank you for visiting him.
And they hit the 4-year that was 4-year anniversary.
4 years.
4
Is it
years.
4?
Yep.
Gee,
That was such a shock.
it's been 4 years since Casey had his stuff.
Lucy, did you? Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. Our next Sunday speaker will be Tara Ashley. She is speaking on regenerative farming and sustainability, and she will be on Zoom. If you would like to donate to our church, please make a check payable to UU Church of Tullahoma and send to our treasurer at P.O. Box 331, Tullahoma, Tennessee 37388. Did you have a song you were going to play? That's fine. You've been doing so well at that. I would really. Anybody here willing to try singing something a cappella?
Sure.
Let's do Morning Has Broken.
Why not? I don't
No, you don't.
What number is it?
It's close to the front.
Oh, that's great.
That narrows it right down.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't find it. I didn't think.
yeah.
Group sources.
Yeah.
What is
38.
it? 38.
Thank you.
38.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, are we ready? stand as you are willing and able,
38.
and sing loud to make up for nobody being here.
With enthusiasm.
With enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Who wants to start it? John, can you?
I'll probably start out a little low.
Yeah, we can start again if we mess up.
Okay.
Jancy, you go ahead and do it.
Oh, yeah, throw the booger on me. Okay.
Can anyone play those opening chords to give us a reference?
Yeah, it's a middle C, and I don't have. Okay.
Stuck.
There we go. Okay.
Like the first morning, blackbird has spoken, like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for the springing, praise from the word.
Let's just sit down. Sweet.
Oh, wait. Something happened. Okay, wait. Sorry about that. I hit a button accidentally.
Apparently.
Well, you know what? If we were
It's
organized.
supposed to be an acapella.
I know, fine, that's right. So here we go again. Morning, sweet daffodil, sunlit from heaven, like the first dewfall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness, where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, all of the one light, Eden's all blame. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Jancy.
Fantastic. Yes, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Sorry about the button mishap.
We all have our burdens to carry. Well, we are very fortunate to have Stan Bumgarner this morning, if I can say his name. He's an old timer here now. So thank you, Stan. He's going to be speaking on the story of Peter.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody.
Morning.
It's nice to see you all. And a couple thoughts come to mind. First, an admission that until I joined the UU church and sang Morning Has Broken there, I always thought it was a Cat Stevens song. And the other is just the reminder that life changes. Yesterday was just gray and drizzly and cold and kind of dismal, and then yet here we are with this beautiful, beautiful day. And there's always something in that to remind me that that's how life can feel. I can feel blue and dreary and dark. And then if I wait around a little while, things will get better. It's always important to remember that. So here we are, excuse me, here we are on Easter morning. And Christians all over the world are celebrating this as the defining moment in their faith. And it's a great story of overcoming death, of resurrection. And I think within that story, there are two other amazing stories that are very human and that are very relatable. The first one, of course, is Judas betraying Jesus for a handful of silver. And I think you can take that story and expand on how we've all kind of sold out at times for a handful of silver. Maybe I should just speak for myself, but it seems to be something that is not uncommon. And then the other story is the story of Peter, who denied Jesus 3 times. And that's the story I'd like to talk about this morning. So the disciples and Jesus are in Jerusalem for the Passover. And they don't know what's about to happen. And Jesus does. And they're pretty celebratory. And he's basically saying, guys, it's about to change. And at some point, they're all talking about how they're going to be with him and how life is going to be. And he says, listen, one of you guys is going to betray me before the night is over. At which time all of them began to look at each other like, was it you? Is it you? It's not me. It's certainly not me. And Peter says, listen, I don't know about all these other pretenders here, but me, you can always count on me. And that's when Jesus tells him, listen, Peter, I know you mean that with all sincerity, but before the sun comes up tomorrow, before the cock crows 3 times, you will have betrayed me 3 times. And as the story goes, they all go out to Gethsemane, and Jesus goes to pray, and we get that famous line, please take this cup from me. If it's possible, do I have to go through with this? And there's almost this comical side part to the story, which is he tells the disciples to stay awake. Y'all be alert here. And he goes off to pray, and he comes back, and they're all asleep. Come on, guys, can't you just stay awake a little bit for me? He goes back to pray again, and they fall asleep again. And then there's that moment where we see the mob coming up to get him, with Judas in the lead. And Judas identifies him. And there's a scuffle. As you can imagine, 12 guys and this mob coming up, probably with torches. They're probably outnumbered 4, 5 to 1. And they scatter. The disciples at that point, it's every man for themselves. Except Peter. He does his best to be there for Jesus. And I've always had this interesting image in my mind of once they've taken Jesus and they've got him in the mob and they're taking him to the high priest's house to torture him and slap him around and accuse him and have him on trial. And Peter is just hanging back because he wants to help, but it's a huge risk to do so. In fact, so big a risk, he's probably hanging out in the dark, just out of the glow of those torches, as he goes down to the high priest's house. And in the Bible, the story goes like this. Peter's out in the courtyard, and a young woman says, weren't you with him a little while ago? And Peter goes, no, it wasn't me. Nope. And then they're standing around the fire. And a man says to him, "Aren't you Galilean? I'm pretty sure, weren't you with Jesus? Weren't you one of those 12 guys?" "No, I said no. Yeah, just a second ago. No, I wasn't." And then a third time by the gate, as they're leading Jesus away, a woman says to him, in essence, "You talk funny. You sound like those people from Galilee. Are you sure you weren't with him? You're not one of the 12? And Peter says, "Listen, I have said this over and over and over. No, I am not with him." Now, it's not how the story is told, but I imagine it would be powerful to think that Jesus was walking by him, that last denial, and they make eye contact, and Jesus is led away, and Peter realizes what he's done. Because the way the story is told in that third denial, that's when the rooster crows, and he remembers what Jesus said the night before. And it says, he wept bitterly. I imagine that to be one of those kind of crying moments of weeping with your hands on your knees where you just can't get your breath. What have I just done? He foretold this. I didn't believe I would do it. I didn't believe I was capable of doing it, and I did it. The great power of this story is after the resurrection, Jesus sits down with Peter and says, "Listen, everything is forgiven with you. I need you. I need you to be the cornerstone of the church." And Peter is redeemed in that effort of building the church. He goes from bent over and sobbing to a very short time later being told, "I've chosen you to build my church." Now, how does that relate to us 2,000 years later? I think in a couple of ways. The first is to remind ourselves that even more now than ever in our social, political situation, we need not deny who we are and believe what we believe. Or what we believe. Because so many times, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. There have been times, in essence, I denied who I am by not speaking up. When I saw injustice, when I saw something wrong, because there was a group of people that believed one thing and I believed something else, and I believed what was right and they believed something else, and I didn't say anything because I felt outnumbered. I don't know about you guys, but there are times in my life where I go, "God, I wish I had said that. God, if I'd only said that. If I'd only stood up for him or her right then, I would feel different." Am I the only person that has that? I saw a couple of nods. See, the story to me about Peter is the story of all of us. The things that we intend to do, who we intend to be, and then when faced with the circumstances, we kind of retreat a little bit and deny who we are and what we believe. But there's another part of denial here too. And I think that's when we tend, or I've tended to deny who I really am because it's impractical. To deny that I want to be an artist, and instead I end up as a traveling salesman because I need to pay my rent, and every day I'm longing to do that other thing. So that idea of being true to ourselves also comes to mind when I think about the story of Peter. So that's really my message this morning. That sense of claiming who we are, for standing up in what we believe, and realizing that this is a very human challenge. And here we have it in this Easter story, this story of Peter, and how he wanted to help, how he wanted to be there, and just couldn't. And how that relates to us, and how many times we wanted to be true to ourselves and we weren't, but also how many times we wanted to stand up for what was right and we didn't. My experience has been, it is always easier because there's strength in numbers to stand up for what's right when I've got people with me. And that's one function of this body. It's one function of this group, that we collectively agree on certain values, spiritual principles. And when we do that, in a way it calls us to help each other be supported, help each other stand up for what's right. But the other part is, it helps us to be who we truly are. Because my experience is, most of us cannot see the true beauty of ourselves until someone else helps us see that. And when we're in a group like this and we see each other and we support each other, it makes it so much easier for us to claim who we really are. So that's how I'll conclude. No big finish there. It's just what I have to say today. Thanks.
Okay, let's conclude with our hymn on 414. As we leave this
friendly place, love gives light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
Let's take about a 15-minute break and we'll be back at 11 till 12.